It is Blueies and Shoeys. Big Poocher here with a post-match review. Just some of my key takeaways from the game. A really quick thank you to everyone. I've had my best performing podcast so far. I do this as a passion, something I really enjoy. I'm not sure where it will go, but to everyone that listened for the pre-game All Blacks Springboks, really appreciate. What I don't do is probably advertise enough in terms of like and subscribe. So if you do enjoy listening to me, please give us a like, give us a subscribe. Really appreciate all the support. Jumping straight into the game, it's a bit of nostalgia. I was actually a little bit emotional there watching the build-up to the game, the fans in the stadium, the fireworks, obviously the drone footage of the surrounding parts of Johannesburg. A bit of nostalgia there of my youth going there to watch Ellis Park, to watch the Springboks on a few occasions, and obviously to regularly watch the Lions in Super Rugby. What an occasion it was. I did see a few comments, and not only from All Black fans, but from a lot of South Africans, that the aeroplane, maybe the chants of Ole, Ole during the Haka was disrespectful. Be keen to get Kiwi's thoughts. Is it disrespectful? I mean, as a home team, do you have to keep quiet for the Haka? I personally don't think it took anything away from the Haka. I thought the Haka, with the chant of Ole, with the plane going over, was box office. It really was box office. It was something out of Hollywood in terms of how you could make a game look spectacular. I really enjoyed it. I thought the Haka was fierce. When you consider Ardie Surveyor and Cody Taylor in the front row there, towards the end of the Haka, they took a few steps forward and they looked G'd up. So I personally don't think it was disrespectful. Keen to get your thoughts in the comments. Please let me know. The opening exchanges of the game, when you consider, I think it was a Dialande fussy double act, getting Ardie Surveyor out of touch on the right wing in the opening exchanges, and Blackadder both on the right wing, and then obviously on the second time on the left wing when Fussy got the yellow card. Good Lord, those hits were coming through the TV. Man, oh man, that was unbelievable. And Ethan Blackadder, unbelievable game. Now, I personally think that both All Blacks, analysts, pundits, rival fans are all expecting this All Blacks team to reclaim the glory years. I just don't think they have the team for that. When you consider the golden age of Hall of Fame players that New Zealand possessed over a 15, 20 year span. But a key component when you consider that, those glory days of All Black rugby, when you had Kieran Reid certainly at the sort of the second phase, and Jermaine Kano playing, adding that physicality, that brawn, that real impact. How big was Ethan Blackadder? Good Lord, the man is a monster. I know he's been discussed quite regularly by experts in New Zealand as the missing link. He's been quite injury prone and therefore hasn't been able to build any kind of traction in terms of both the All Blacks and Super Rugby. And we started seeing a few green shoots out of Frizzell before the World Cup, a few big games during the World Cup. I thought he may be the answer, albeit again was quite prone to giving away penalties. What New Zealand can take in terms of positives from this game is a monster performance from Blackadder. He may have established himself on this game alone as the potential long-term successor to Jermaine Kano in that type of role. The first set South Africa had off the line out, in terms of attack, we saw the impacts of Tony Brown in terms of a couple of neat passes and then a pass on the inside. I think it was to Cheslin Colby. That was quite exciting. The Springboks looked to play with width. but throughout the game, the Springboks were marred by basic errors, handling errors in particular. Consider how many tackled players looked to pop the ball, often at knee height, led to knock-ons. When Jesse Creel went to the wing and tried to pop it to Damien Delande, Ben Dixon tried to pop it to Jasper Wiese in the first half. South Africa really struggled to build any form of consistency throughout the game in terms of pressure because of basic errors. And a lot of those errors were actually by experienced players. It doesn't help when, really, I was quite surprised that Damien Delande didn't see Geordie Barrett coming in for that intercept. But South Africa really struggled to build any form of consistent pressure through mistakes of their own, and I thought they were actually kept in the game by some brilliant work at the breakdown. Not being critical of Damien Delande, but he was big on that first half at the breakdown. When you consider, I think he himself got 2 or 3 breakdown turnovers. That kept South Africa in the game from my point of view. Certainly in the first half, New Zealand took advantage of mistakes, and really, if had it not been for those breakdown wins, New Zealand could have been 7+ points ahead in that first half. Hamani Shamangi pointed out, which I certainly noticed, that New Zealand were not contesting the lineouts and were really putting a lot of pressure on Kobus Reinach in terms of that first pass, therefore trying to disrupt the South African attack. I thought at the breakdowns they were really contesting hard at the kicking game of the scrum halves, and both he and Grant Williams, I thought, really struggled to impact the game. They are both incredibly quick players and were given no room to exploit the Kiwis' defence, and both really struggled. Now, I know Grant Williams scored a try in the second half, but I thought overall as a game, both South African scrum halves really struggled, down to the scrutiny the Kiwis put on them throughout the game. I commentated on in my last podcast that the impact Felix Jones had on the English rush D, and it was a poor man's Springbok defence. I thought the rush defence was 5-6 out of 10. When you consider the speed at which they typically close down the rival attack, Jesse Creel, Damien Delande are usually the ones that are hitting both ball and man and really containing the opposition and not allowing them to go out to the wing. And when they do, usually that winger or outside man is on his own, and the scramble D is able to work hard and pick up that player and regroup. But I mean, when you consider a key example was Caleb Clark's second try. You know, I spoke about whether they need a playmaker of 12 and come from deeper. I didn't see any huge amount of pressure on Damien McKenzie. I thought he had a decent game without shooting the lights out. There didn't seem to be anything outrageous for that Caleb Clark second try in terms of innovation, and it seemed to be pretty straightforward. And so I was quite disappointed that maybe just that intensity was a little bit off. Is the enthusiasm from a attack, the spreading the ball out wide, the amount of energy that South Africa are exerting on their attack, is that impacting their ability on defence? We'll wait and see. By no means does the Highveld exclusively affect opposition players. Did that also have an impact? I'm not sure, but usually Jesse Creel and Damien Delande are able to control or contain an opposition's attack before the ball gets out wide. And if it does get out wide, like I say, the scramble defence is usually able to pick up that lone player that's often on his own. Where this time, again, Caleb Clark's second try, I thought, was far too easy. Now, I had given a good few minutes of praise, attention, hype, which I think I said about 45 times in my last podcast, with Sasha, Feinberg and KwaZulu. What I found quite interesting in terms of his performance, was the fact that he was, or still remained, on kicking duties even when Andre Pollard came on. You think about the kick which led to, I think it was the last try, kicked within the 5 metre from ball in hand. That was unbelievable, but still also had kicking duties for Poles. And the second point was, look, again, on attack, I thought the Springboks overall were incredibly disjointed because of the amount of errors, knock-ons in particular, that they experienced throughout the game. I think it was Caleb Clark's first try. Sasha looks to close down Damien McKenzie. He spreads the ball out wide. He actually pushes Damien McKenzie, because obviously he's running into him to tackle him, pushes him over. He then runs down Caleb Clark and ankle taps him over the dead ball line. And so he scores a try 5 metres in from the corner, where he was going to go run right under the poles. Subsequently, Damien McKenzie then kicks and misses the conversion. 2 points saved. In a game that you win only by 4 points, when you consider New Zealand had time after the last try, potentially could have got a penalty, you lose the game by 1. The small margins at this elite level of rugby, at this elite level of sport, when you consider the charge down that Cheslin Colby had on Ramos in the quarterfinals, this lad's enthusiasm for the game, not only in attack, he put in a number of tackles during this game, and I thought the enthusiasm, the vigour, the endeavour that he showed on defence was incredible. Small things like that are often missed by fans. That had a big impact on the game. The second half, certainly, while New Zealand got the intercept try, again was incredibly stop-start. South Africa trying to build pressure, then giving away penalties or knock-ons. That up into that 63rd minute, I think South Africa really struggled. Where I thought the big changes were not only Blackadder, I think, did he come off towards the end of the game? I thought Tamati Williams, which I didn't mention in my last podcast, the lad is 140 kegs. Good Lord. I mean, I thought he had a great game in that second test against Argentina. We've seen huge potential from him. If I'm not mistaken, I think he played out in the Western Force in Perth. And has made a name for himself to make it onto the team sheet at Ethan de Groot's expense, injury expense. This was a big challenge for him, and he delivered. I thought, and this is no mean feat, that he was able to really keep South Africa on the back foot in the scrums in that first half. I thought he was pivotal in keeping Frans Malherbe and Ox at bay, and when Tua Vangafasi got that yellow card, that they really took the wind out of the All Black sails, really impacted the game. South Africa, through Malcolm Marx in the maul phase off the lineouts, were able to build that pressure. Quokka Smith, I mentioned, would be the other big impact player coming off the bench. He was unbelievable with ball in hand, carries at the breakdown, as he always is, displaying his background in sevens. The lad is such a brilliant rugby player, impacted the game heavily. That was absolutely critical, I thought, in terms of South Africa edging New Zealand. South Africa just to scrape over the line. It reminds me a lot of South Africa beating Ireland, not this last series, but the previous series in 2016 when we were going through a fair bit of up and down. Ruan Combrink scored a try by running over an Irish defender at Ellis Park, at his home ground. We came back from 10 odd points, I think, in that game to win that one. I was reminiscing and really felt it had that same type of flavour where we did not play well at all. I thought the Springboks, However, through sheer endeavour, through sheer will to win, South Africa were able to just edge, I thought, a solid, good, not brilliant, All Black performance. Finally, before I forget, I thought Caleb Clarke had a good game. I thought those tries were well within his grasp. It is interesting, though, that Will Jordan, both in the final of the World Cup and this game, had really very little room to display his attacking credentials. He's a man with huge potential and a superstar of the game. Sometimes the ball could just fall to one side of the edge during a game. Caleb Clarke was given room and was able to take advantage. We moved to Cape Town. I said in the last podcast that South Africa have to stand on the throat of the All Blacks. We convincingly beat them in Nelspruit last time round. Fozzie's job was gone. I thought we actually felt sorry for New Zealand. New Zealand never have ever felt sorry for the Springboks. This is the time to really smash it home. My concern for the All Blacks is if you cannot beat South Africa in a mistake-riddled attack, a mistake-riddled performance that they put on at Ellis Park, how do you beat them? I don't think our defence was particularly at its best, and there was a number of mistakes in terms of knock-ons, penalties given away. So if the All Blacks cannot win when South Africa put on performance like that, when and how will they win? I'll try to preview the second test. South Africa must put New Zealand away. All Blacks have a very good record in Cape Town. A number of Cape Townians are actually All Black supporters, so they should have a little bit more extra support, a few more black jerseys in the crowd. It should be a cracker, but South Africa, despite a mistake-prone performance, were able to get over the line in what was a hugely entertaining first test. That's it. Thanks, everyone. Take care.